Hello everyone, and I'd like to welcome you to our event. Oceans cover 70% of our planet's surface, absorb 25% of global carbon dioxide, and produce 50% of our oxygen. However, the nexus between the ocean and climate change has been overlooked. I'd like to welcome you to our roundtable discussion on the ocean and climate justice, impact, adaptation, and mitigation. This roundtable discussion will highlight the important message that inclusive ocean governance is essential to ensure that resilience and adaptation to climate change is both sustainable and just. Our speakers will share their perspectives on how climate change impacts internationally agreed upon human rights, such as the right to health, and in some coastal communities, the right to self-determination and the right to life. Given the close relationship between climate change and human rights, this roundtable will explore the importance of integrating human rights into society's response to climate change. This discussion will draw attention to the importance and to the challenges that climate change poses to indigenous peoples, small-scale fishing communities, the distribution of fish stocks, and the structure of deep-sea ecosystems. Together, we have the opportunity to discuss innovation and adaptation strategies that can support the sustainability of the oceans and improve community resilience. Only last month, the United Nations Human Rights Council passed the Clean Environment Resolution, which recognized the right to a safe, clean, healthy, and sustainable environment as a human right. Now, to all of us here today, one of our main questions may be, in October 2021, we're finally recognizing access to a healthy environment as a human right. Many of us understand that the impacts to a degraded environment are intersectional and affect many different qualities of life, including human rights. And especially as a member of the youth community, as a member of youth whose future depends on the health of the environment, we see this right to a healthy environment as an absolute privilege, as an absolute pillar of safeguarding our own future. So who am I? My name is Mark Haver, and I'll be moderating this session today. I'm chair of Sustainable Ocean Alliance's Youth Policy Advisory Council. Sustainable Ocean Alliance is the world's largest network of international youth and young ocean leaders dedicated to projects advancing ocean health in their countries and their local communities and across the world. The inaugural Youth Policy Advisory Council is Sustainable Ocean Alliance's policy brain. We are an international group of 15 young ocean leaders dedicated to improving health globally, and we lead 2 policy campaigns. Our first policy campaign is against deep seabed mining, and our second policy campaign is for the Global Blue New Deal, which is an inclusive, youth-led, stakeholder-driven ocean climate policy framework. Not only am I motivated with the Sustainable Ocean Alliance community to be able to advocate for ocean climate action, but my own community in Old Ellicott City in Maryland in the United States, just 45 minutes north of Washington, D.C., has also been impacted by a changing climate. In 2016, when I visited my hometown's downtown district, it started to rain when I was there with my mother. Within an hour when we got home, we were getting calls from our family from all across the nation asking if we were alive. Within 2 hours, more than 6 inches of rain came down on our town and created more than 15 feet of floods that wiped out local stores and even killed some members of our community. That was deemed a flood that would only come 50 to 75 years. But in 2018, we had another 100-year flood that once again devastated our community. Even though the impacts a changing climate may have on us seem far from us or maybe not as local, it's certain that a changing climate has impacted many communities like mine now. And it is amazing that at this specific day, November 5th, at COP26, we're seeing this nexus between not just ocean and climate, but also ocean, climate, and youth. Today is Youth Empowerment Day, and today is also Ocean Action Day. And I'm honored to be part of this panel and to be able to highlight the ways in which different communities that are impacted by climate change can advocate for both ocean and climate justice. With the impacts of a changing climate affecting ocean acidification, sea level rise, and all different types of marine ecosystems, we must recognize how we can both leverage the ocean as a solution and protect its health to ensure our own adaptation resilience, and mitigation to a changing climate. However, this cannot be done without granting local communities who have a stake in the environment access to governance. It is absolutely critical that those who are most affected by climate change are given a seat at the table. And I'm excited to explore this nexus of being able to include those local communities and stakeholders in governance during this roundtable today. We'll go through several presentations by our incredible speakers, both in person and virtually today, and we'd like to welcome you between segments of presentations to ask questions. For our in-person audience, you can go ask questions with the mics on the right and left-hand sides, and for our virtual audience, please go to slido.com, that's SLIDO.com, and enter #993342. 993342 to submit live questions for our panelists. I'd now like to introduce Dr. Bernadette Snow. Dr. Bernadette Snow is One Ocean Hub's Deputy Director, and she'll be giving you an overview of One Ocean Hub. Thank you so much, and take it away.
Thank you very much, Mark, and welcome everyone to this session. And it is my pleasure to give a little brief, quick overview of the One Ocean Hub, and if you'd like any further information, please feel free to approach any of us and we can answer some questions later. So the One Ocean Hub is an international program of research that is focused on sustainable development, and what we're working towards is promoting fair and inclusive decision-making for a healthy ocean whereby people and planet can flourish. Our work is focused in South Africa, Namibia, Ghana, Fiji, and the Solomon Islands, and you'll hear a little bit more of some of the work in those areas. We also focus on international dimensions, which is led by the University of Strathclyde with 126 researchers, 18 project partner organizations, and over 21 research partners. It is a GCRF UKRI funded project. We bring together 5 interconnected research programs, particularly looking at the Nexus, and it is very important to understand the interconnection between them. So firstly, we focus on ocean governance as well, which aims to discover the full potential of law and foster an inclusive and transparent, sustainable blue economy, in particular that contributes to climate change adaptation and mitigation. We also explore emotionally connecting with the ocean through arts to explore how creative responses can help address ocean challenges, including those that are posed by climate change. In other words, they are affected by it. Through arts-based methodologies, we are able to include many voices within our research process. We also focus on fishery science management in particular to integrate multiple sources of knowledge, including indigenous and local knowledge, to develop a collective understanding of the potential impacts from plastics and climate change as accumulative pressures on ecosystems and how they respond. We also look at offshore marine biodiversity. For many, it seems inaccessible, and we undertake modeling of these ecosystems and try to understand the impacts. Also investigating the connections with these offshore areas beyond national jurisdiction, where there are many, and because there are not always people in those areas, they often are disconnected from these offshore areas. And then we focus on blue societies that focus on the invisible and marginalized knowledge, practices and economies and social environments, including from a climate justice perspective. And we focus on marine spatial planning as a tool for this interconnected ocean governance. We focus on transforming our responses to ocean challenges. We want to influence decisions and practices. We want to promote sustainability and justice inclusive. We want to connect law, science, and policy, ensure that it is integrative, and empower communities, in particularly women and children and the youth. With that, I thank you, and I'll hand over back to Mark.
Thank you so much, Dr. Snow. It's great to see when we talk about ocean health that not only is there a research component included, but especially when we talk about justice, you're thinking about intersectional ways to include arts, to include local communities as well. I'm excited to further this conversation with our next presentation. Our next presentation is on climate change, the ocean, and human rights. the role of arts in furthering justice for Indigenous peoples, small-scale fishers, rural women, and children, presented by Dr. Aline Webster of University of Strathclyde and Professor Stuart Jeffrey. Professor Stuart Jeffrey is the Professor of Digital Heritage at the School of Simulation and Visualization in the Glasgow School of Art, with a background in archaeology and computer science. Professor Jeffrey is a One Ocean Hub co-investigator on the research program that focuses on emotional connection with the oceans. Dr. Aline Webster is a senior lecturer at Strathclyde Law School and director of the Center for the Study of Human Rights Law. She is a fellow of Strathclyde's Center for Environmental Law and Governance and Strathclyde Center for Health Policy. She is also a co-investigator on the One Ocean Hub project with a focus on international law. Please welcome our incredible presenters.
Thank you very much, Mark. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to give a very brief overview of the emotionally connecting with the ocean aspects of where art and human rights intersect. The whole ocean culture research program under One Ocean Hub has a manifesto, and we are advocating that art in all its forms is a powerful vehicle